Howdy, my name is Ramon Martinez, Ray Martinez. For those of you who have had my classes, you know I teach Tai Chi for the Harford County Senior Centers. I also teach under contract for other organizations. I do business under the moniker Heaven Mountain Kung Fu. Today, this is supposed to be a basic class, and I wanted to start out with some history and some explanation of what Tai Chi is. Tai Chi is actually Tai Chi Chuan, which means Grand Ultimate Boxing. It's not super ancient. Tai Chi was developed in the mid-1200s by a Taoist monk, Yang Luchan, who originated Yang style, which is the style I teach, developed his form, which was rooted in Chen style back in the mid-1800s. His grandson, Yang Cheng Fu, developed the form that we base our instruction on today. Now, Tai Chi Chuan, if you notice on this board, there are two spellings, T-A-I-J-I-Q-U-A-N. That's Tai Chi Chuan, not Tai Chi Quan. That's Mandarin, that's modern Chinese. Tai Chi Chuan, T-A-I-C-H-I-C-H-U-A-N, is Cantonese and is actually pronounced Taiki Kun, but it was anglicized. In order to do Tai Chi Chuan, you must practice principles. If you just do choreography, you're not actually doing Tai Chi. Tai Chi is based in the principles. Yang Cheng Fu, the originator of the long form, that's the form I teach, had 10 different principles. Head upright, sink the chest, pluck up the back, sung, relax the waist, differentiate between substantial and insubstantial, sink shoulders and drop elbows, use the mind, not force, coordinate upper and lower body, harmonize internal and external, move with continuity, move with tranquility. Chen Mancheng boiled those down to 5. Now, Chen Mancheng is one of Yang Cheng Fu's disciples. So he had the benefit of Yang Cheng Fu's oral transmission and his classes and demonstration and manipulation. Chen Mancheng, relax, body upright, separate the yin and yang, turn the waist, and beautiful lady's hand. Now, beautiful lady's hand is kind of interesting. This is the only place where the hand is actually addressed. And it is the open, relaxed hand, just the way you'd see a ballerina holding her hand. Notice that the middle finger sinks, the two index and ring finger are about even. The little finger, pinky finger, is down a little bit, and the thumb is relaxed and opposed the fingers. This allows energy to flow through the arm into the hands. In Heaven Mountain Kung Fu, I teach 12 different principles. These principles are more bite-sized and are a little easier for most students to understand and to describe. A level height, 6 gates open, continuity, move from the ground up, neck and back straight, circularity, toe-heel alignment, hip-shoulder alignment, hand, foot, and foot timing, separate the weight, intention, and attitude. When we incorporate all those things and we use them to practice, we practice based on this list of 13 postures that appear in the Tai Chi classics. The 5 directions: center, wherever you are; forward, advancing; backward, yielding; look to the right; glance to the left. The 8 energies: ward off, roll back, squeeze and push; People who have been in my classes know that this is also the names of different postures that make up grasping sparrow's tail. And then the second three, secondary or fallback energies, pluck, split, stroke, and bump. The idea is that if you do these in terms of martial application, if you do these correctly, you will never need these. But if you miss one of these are your fallback positions. This is the fallback energy. So, now if you were standing in front of me, I'd ask you right now if you had any questions. But you're not, so I won't. Okay, back to these 12 principles. Level height. When we talk about level height, we're talking about not the head so much as the center. We want the center to move in a horizontal plane without bouncing up and down. So when I sink at the very beginning of the form and step to the first posture, which is Wu Qi, that sets the height for the rest of the form. It doesn't mean I will never sink below or sink up, but as long as I'm in a stance, a standard stance, bow stance, empty stance, Wu Qi, or horse stance, or hourglass stance, this is the height where I want my center to be. So I lift and push, yield and strike, ward off left, and notice that the center stays in that horizontal plane. 6 gates open. Both Yang Sheng Fu and Shen Man Ching talk about relaxing. 6 gates open is the relaxation of the body, or to keep the gates open, gates being wrists, elbows, shoulders, hips, knees, and ankles. If you go to full range of motion in any of these joints, you're actually closing the gates and blocking the flow of energy. So throughout the discussion, energy and internal energy and qi are used simultaneously. And qi is a measurable thing. It's not something ethereal. It's made up of bioelectric energy, your circulatory system, your lymphatic system, and systems that they're not even sure of. But it has been measured in Western science, Western medicine. So, keeping the gates open allows that energy to flow through the joints, and one of the things that makes Tai Chi healthy. Continuity. There are 5 different levels of practicing Tai Chi. There's the block form. That's when I take a stance to make a posture and stop. Lift and push, I stop. Yield and strike, I stop. That's block form. Linking form, which is where most people stop their training, they get satisfied with linking form. That's when you continue in fluid, continuous movement without stopping and without causing an interruption in the flow of energy. Moving from the ground up. In order to do Tai Chi, you have to be properly rooted throughout the form. Rooting, that means that the center has to be properly supported, the gates have to be open, and we can feel the energy through the soles of our feet. It's called the Yang Chuan, in the middle of the foot, between the inner ball, outer ball, and the heel. Triangulate, and we have our connection to the earth. Yang Chuan, or bubbling well. So that's our connection. We move our root. We have a movable root. So when I start, I push down into my left foot, push down into my right foot. I'm establishing root each time I step and move my foot. So that allows the energy, allows me to push down into the earth and to bring the energy up through my center and into the hands. Neck and back straight. A very common issue with Tai Chi students is looking down to see what your feet are doing. Now, I tell my students all the time that your feet are not going to do something you don't want them to do. You're not going to want to go one way and feet take you somewhere else. So it's not necessary to look at your feet constantly, but that's what happens. We have an exercise called Tai Chi stepping, and this is a bow stance. And in the Tai Chi stepping, we yield and open, shift the weight, come to center, place the heel, place the sole, shift the weight forward, and settle into the bow stance. The feet are parallel. But if you do this and look down to make sure your feet are parallel all the time, you've lost your center because your body wants to go where the head goes. So you've just changed your center of gravity. So we need to have the neck and back straight. When I stand in Wu Chi, the hips are tucked under to allow the lower back to straighten, and I stretch my head up to try and get my spine in a line like dangling a string of pearls. So, when I step into bow stance, that same thing holds true. That's why the back leg is soft and not locked. If I lock the back leg, there are a couple of postures that require the back leg to be straightened fully. My back stays straight and I come forward this way. See? Forward, leg straight, leg soft, head and neck erect, straight. Circularity. Everything we do in Tai Chi Chuan is circular. Our circularity involves the waist moving in a circular fashion. Watch the waist as I step to Wu Chi. There is a circularity. My hands move in a circular fashion. My feet move in a circular fashion. Notice both hands, equal and opposite movement. One hand isn't dead while the other one moves. Both hands have to move as you go through your postures. Toe-heel alignment. I'm going to hit toe-heel alignment and hip-shoulder alignment at the same time. Toe-heel alignment is that front toe with the rear heel. I'm in bow stance. Front toe, you draw a line between the feet. Both toes are turned in slightly or turned to the right slightly because my right leg is back. And the front toe aligns with the rear heel. Now, it's not like you're on a tightrope. It has to be shoulder width and comfortable. So toe-heel alignment. When I do this, notice that the feet are turned in. It's because the bow stance is a fighting stance. And this, the front foot turned in, allows this knee to be protected from a forward strike by flexing, okay, rather than being knocked straight back. And it protects the groin from a straight-on strike. Now the hips and shoulders are also aligned, hips over the toes, shoulders over the hips. So I'm facing the camera here, I'm facing you, but everything else is slightly off, bladed. Well, there's a whole lot of reasons for this. The Marshall applications go back to, if I take a hit, I want to be able to deflect that hit. I do not want to be here straight on and take the hit full force. Hand and foot timing. Hand and foot timing is really more accurately would be described as upper and lower body timing. So when I step to Uchi, for example, I shift the weight forward. Now my hands are moving, my feet have stopped moving, but my center and my lower body has not. They all come, but they all stop at the same time. All movement reaches the peak of where that energy is at the same time. So here and here, shifting the weight, the circularity. When I go into ward off, the same thing. Separating the weight. A lot of times we call this weight shifting. So I shift the weight. When I step forward into Uchi, or into ward off left, the weight is separated in the center. So here the weight's on my right foot, and now the weight shifts or separates so that the yin energy is here, the yang energy is here, 70-30, and that weight is separated. So it's not strictly a matter of shifting the weight. We have to separate the weight, knowing which side is yin and which side is yang. Intention and attitude. Intention and attitude are both more mental exercises, and it determines the way you do your form. So when I talk about intention, I'm talking about what is it that I'm actually feeling? What's the emotional content of what I'm doing at any given time? Now, in order to understand what you're doing, you have to have some concept of what the martial application is. That's why when instructors teach the form, just the choreography, without teaching any of the principles or without acknowledging that there are practical applications, that's what we call them, not techniques, but practical applications in the martial aspect, you lose a lot. You don't know why you're doing what you're doing. So when I start at the very beginning of the form, at the very beginning of the set, as I shift my weight and I rotate, I'm using silk cocoon reeling energy. I'm sinking, I'm separating the weight. I have all the timing. I step to Uchi. I sink, lift and push, yield and strike, ward off left, grasping sparrow's tail, ward off right, roll back, squeeze and push, turn to single whip, 2, 3, and single whip. And that's about the first third of the opening section, section 1. In each of these postures, the intention gives you the idea that you are expressing energy. One way of trying to understand it is, what if you were actually facing an opponent? How would you exercise these postures? How would you perform them if you were meeting force? So the intent is, where are you going to discharge energy? Where are you going to focus your energy? How does that happen? And that requires some notion of what the practical martial applications are. Attitude. Attitude is where we get into the nub of the Taoist origins of Tai Chi Chuan. It is the sense that as you do your form, as you practice, nothing else exists. You are in this bubble, this Tai Chi bubble, where nothing exists, there's nothing on the outside, you are living in the moment. And that's a very difficult thing to accomplish. It takes a lot of practice because in order to get there, you have to have the form committed to muscle memory so you can do it without thinking. A good friend of mine who also teaches or taught for the senior centers teaches a Japanese style called Mushin no To. And Mushin no To means mind, no mind. Essentially, that is the attitude that we're describing. Your mind is moving the energy and moving you through the postures, but you are not focused on anything else around you. Okay, so back to the 13 postures, the 5 directions. Okay, the posture I'm going to take right now is called single whip, and I'm facing the camera. Okay, have the feet parallel and shoulder width, the knees are flexed, the lower back straight, head and neck erect. Okay, all the joints are open, all the gates are open. And as I stand in this posture, the center is where I am right now. If I change positions and turn around, the center hasn't changed because it's wherever my center is. When I talk about moving forward, okay, so I'm going to take the posture this way, and I'm going to turn to my right. But now I'm moving forward, because forward is in relation to wherever it is I'm looking. So I come forward. Here, I'm going forward. Advance and yield. Advance and yield, or forward and backward, is most easily described by using grasping sparrow's tail. So, ward off, roll back, squeeze, and push. Okay, so those 3 postures. When I step into ward off, that's forward. That's the direction. Roll back, I'm retreating or yielding. Squeeze, I'm advancing again. In the push, I yield and then advance, turning an opponent's energy back on them. Now look right and glance left. Tai Chi is often called a right-handed form. And it's a right-handed form because in the East, in Asia, the same prejudices against left-handedness existed as they do in the Western world, in Europe and the Americas and what have you. So the primary postures are all done to the right, right-handed. There are some that are ambidextrous, but even the ambidextrous postures, right-handedness far supersedes any left-handed motion. So when I look right, taking single whip again, this is my space. If I want to look to the left, I can glance left and then react appropriately. Okay, so from section 1 to section 2, there's fist under elbow. And that is a result of glancing left. And there's a whole sequence there where we retreat, we yield, until we turn it back on an opponent. So, looking right, because it's a right-handed form, because right-handedness is primary. Glancing left, because we're a right-handed form, and right-handedness is primary. Okay, ward off, roll back, squeeze, and push. There are some misnomers in the description of these energies by a lot of folks. Commonly, squeeze is often called ward off, roll back, press. And stroke is often called elbow, and bump is often called shoulder. But that's not the way they actually translate. So, ward off, roll back, squeeze, and push. When I ward off translates to make two moons. So, roundedness, like two crescent moon shapes. The roll back, look what happens to the hands. The hands roll back like one of those rolling conveyor belts. See? Roll back. Squeeze, I come back to center and I squeeze, and I'm squeezing from the ground up into the elbows, the shoulders. I stretch the back, hollow the chest, and that is squeezing. It's not a pressing movement, it's a squeezing movement. When I look at the stroke is often called elbow because of this kind of movement. So if I am using going from ward off left to ward off right, if I find myself having to fall back on a posture, a different energy because I'm too close to execute the ward off, then stroke is here. So using the elbow. Bump. Again, using that same movement in the postures from ward off left to ward off right. Bump would be here, using the shoulder and lifting and pushing back, bumping back to take the opponent off his balance, out of his root, separate him from his root. So bump is more accurate, stroke is more accurate, and squeeze is more accurate when we talk about those energies and the postures that go with them. Ward off, roll back, squeeze, and push are the only postures that are actually named after the energies that they represent. You will see ward off, pong, roll back, liu, squeeze, ji, push, on. Some instructors at some publications, some videos that you might come across will use this for the energies and this for the name of the postures. Or vice versa, in order to keep them separate. In my mind, there's no reason to keep them separate because ward off is ward off. Roll back is roll back, etc., etc. So, okay, so now form. When we do our form, remember intention and attitude. Try to focus on these. Be aware of the 13 postures, but try to focus on one or more of the principles. Now, you can't focus on all 12 principles at once. You have to kind of use them as building blocks. So level height is a good place to start. If I'm doing level height, all the energy's going where I want it to go in this direction. See? It's all going straight ahead. I keep that level height. If I was to start changing my height, here I step up, come down, up and down, up and down, then I'm losing energy in the direction I want it to go. So when we talk about energy, if you're into physics at all, there are force vectors. So if I have energy going straight ahead, but I also have energy going up, there's only so much energy, and that up energy is robbing this of the energy it needs to go forward. So work on the level height. That's a real good place to start. 6 gates open. Just remind yourself to relax. Keep your elbows down. Take the strain off your shoulders. Don't lock your knees, even with the knees bent. A lot of people lock the knees and they don't have any springiness. So releasing the knees, you'll feel it right here above the kneecap, right at the base of the quadricep. Let it relax. Let the energy hold you up. Moving from the ground up, just think about it in terms of pushing off the earth. There's a concept called 3 energies, and it applies to the Tai Chi, even though it's not in the 13 postures. But there's earth energy, heaven energy, and human energy. Well, earth energy is from the bottom, waist down, you're actually sinking and pushing against the earth. You're actively seeking and establishing root. At the same time, remember yin and yang, I'm lifting from my waist up. So when I say keep the head and neck erect, a lot of times it's a lot easier to think, well, I'm lifting from the waist up and stretching. But this part is going down, this part's going up. What do we have? We have equal and opposite. We have the yin and yang in action. But the mind stays here on the dantian, the lower dantian. That is the center, the energy center, where the qi is being moved and created and all that. So if I keep my mind on my center and push down, lift up, then doing my movements make me that much more stable and allow me that much more focus for the energy that I am depositing or releasing somewhere else. Circularity is another one that is easy to deal with. Move from the ground up, neck and back straight, circularity. Neck and back straight, think about the 3 energies. Earth, heaven, human. That'll help you keep that neck and back straight. The circularity, try not to do this kind of thing. I see this a lot. Squeeze and push, and people do this. They pull those elbows back and do this for the push. Look what happens to the hands when I do the push. There's no elbow movement. The gates stay open. Okay? And there's a circular movement to it. I'm not drawing in and pushing out again. Everything needs to move in that circle. We have lots of different circular pathways. Horizontal, vertical, diagonal, all those different pathways for circularity. The toe-heel alignment is something that you can check for as you practice, but don't do this. Just screws up your center of gravity. Do this. I keep my focus, my gaze straight ahead. I want to check, I look, make any adjustments I need to make with the foot that I just stepped with. And go back and then move. Don't allow yourself to keep your eyes on the ground. Separating the weight we talked about, intention and attitude we talked about. Again, intention and attitude, those are the most difficult ones because you have to have internalized the postures so that you can do them without thinking, without wondering what comes next. The fact of the matter is if you're always thinking about what comes next, you're never in the moment. your attitude is shot, and you cannot actually practice effectively. Okay, so I'm going to go through section 1. And I will comment as we go. So I sink to the right, sink to the left. That allows me to lift the left foot. There's the hand and foot timing. There's the circularity. Once I settle, then I move into lift and push, and then yield and strike. See, I just move right through. Each posture depends on the momentum from the previous posture. So I don't want to stop. I was ward off left, now ward off right, beginning grasping sparrow's tail, roll back, squeeze, and push. Turn to single whip. 1, 2, 3. You don't see this particular movement in a lot of forms, but Yang Sheng-Fu is very specific about that movement in his writings. That was single whip, and then lift arm. Follow through to white crane spreads his wings. Notice that this is an empty stance, toe down. Brush left knee and push right. So I move through the posture to playing the lute, which is like lift arm left. Brush knee and push. Brush knee and push. Brush knee and push. Notice that there was only one left-handed version of brush knee and push, and there are 5 of them altogether. Back to playing the lute, brush knee and push, and then back fist, intercept and punch, seal, separate the hands. I'm folding at the waist in order to make that push, crossing hands, and back to Wu Chi. Notice at the beginning of the set, when I step to Wu Chi, I'm stepping forward, my foot comes to center, and the foot moves this way because I'm continuing that circularity. So the foot moves back. When my foot moves backwards, my toe touches first, and then the sole of the foot in order to establish root. At the end of the section, when I go from the push, go into crossing hands. Now the foot's coming back. I don't want to change direction. I want that linear motion. I'm drawing in and turning it forward using my waist. Heel touches first. Because the rule of thumb is anytime I step forward or to the side, the heel touches first. Anytime I'm moving backward, the toe touches first. Okay, so principles. Principles are one of the most important things that we do, or are the most important things that we consider when we practice Tai Chi. Now, it's said that a Tai Chi instructor does not teach you Tai Chi. I mean, think about it. All these things I can't feel for you. You have to feel them. I can point out things that are changing your perception. If I see your elbows up and your shoulders locked, I can tell you to put the shoulders down. If I see that your back is arched, I can tell you to straighten your lower back. But I can't give you the feeling that you need when you practice your Tai Chi. So all I can do is teach you how to learn Tai Chi. And the way you learn Tai Chi is take those postures that you get in the choreography of the form and apply the principles. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your attention. I hope this helps get you through the lockdown and into September, where I hope we start classes again. I'm looking forward to seeing you really, really soon. Thank you.